Laura here. So if you saw the post that I made a few minutes ago, I kind of forgot that the garden stake class was today and not tomorrow, but I am now in the studio. We will not tell any police officers I know how much I broke the speed limit getting here. But I'm here. While we are waiting for people to jump in, a couple things you're gonna need. I'm trying to figure out the best way. Always tough to make it so that you can see that and kind of me. Okay, you're gonna need some water, and I think I remembered to give everybody a skewer, but if I didn't give you a skewer, anything, a toothpick, a skewer, a knife, anything like that will work. And you can, well, while I'm waiting for a couple of more minutes, your alphabet pasta, that is what you're going to make your words with. So if you know what you're going to do, you might want to start looking for the proper words. I keep trying to think of, like, let's say I'll have to get my samples. Let me get my samples. Where are my samples? Okay, maybe I can't get my samples because I thought I had them earlier and I don't know what I did with them now. But I've done tomatoes and potatoes and basil and squash. I'm trying to think of what else that I actually grow. But okay, so looks like we have a pretty good audience, so we can get started. So I started with a slab that I rolled out for everybody. Oh, I have to grab one more thing. I'm sorry. I also need to put my phone on silent. There we go. Okay. If you have a credit card or a key card, that's going to be useful. So I already rolled out a slab for everybody, and I pretty much flattened it. But if there's any marks or anything in it that you want to get rid of, that's what the key card is for. So you just give a good swipe across the clay in both directions. And I picked up my slab and put it on top of my piece of foam that I gave you because it won't stick to the foam. I also gave everybody 2 different templates that you can use. So whichever one you want. And I've already done a bunch like this, so I'm going to do a couple like this. So the first step is literally that you're just going to lay that down on your piece of clay, and using a skewer, a toothpick, a knife, you're just going to cut all the way through the clay around your template. Okay. And what you can do is you can do several on this one piece of clay, and I'm going to show you how to then take the clay that's left and reuse it so that you can get a couple more out of there. But let me just make a couple of these, and maybe I'll make one of these. Like this. Okay. And then I'm going to remove those pieces of clay from my main piece. And put the leftovers aside for a minute. And we may use those for decorating and things like that. But, okay. So the next thing you want to do, either with a piece of sponge or just with your finger, is the edges are kind of, you know, they're not smooth. So you're just gonna, with a little bit of water, you're just gonna smooth those edges out and make them nice. You don't want to get it too wet because then the clay is gonna start getting sloppy and you don't want that to happen. So I'm just smoothing my edges out like that. Okay. I'm going to put it back on my piece of foam board. And this is where you're going to use your vegetable or alphabet pasta to create your words. So this could take us a few minutes to try and spell things out, but God knows that there is a whole lot of letters in those containers that I gave you. So I think maybe I will say spinach with this one. I gotta find an S. There we go. S-P-I. N. Okay, somebody spell it for me. Oh, yeah, Christine, these are the garden stakes. Somebody spell spinach for me. S-P-I-N-A-C-H, I think, right? Because that would just look funny if I spelled it wrong. There we go. Okay, so I have, God, that just does not look right. Is that right? Do I have to look it up? I actually have to look up how to spell spinach. I'm a horrible, horrible speller. S-P. Oops. That is right. Okay, I had to double check. Okay, so what you're going to do is you are going to, and I think on this one, I'm going to go right down the center. Now, I'm not going to go all the way to the point because that part's going to be in the dirt. So I'm going to start up a little bit. And I'm going to really squish those letters in there. Now, you don't have to worry about digging the letters out because when I put them in the kiln, they're just going to burn off. Okay, so you don't have to worry about pulling them out, but you do want them in there almost flush down to the clay so that you get a nice impression of the letters in there. Okay. And as soon as I get this in here, oops, I will show you what I mean. Okay. All right. So see how they're not sticking up at all, right? So I like got them really sort of squished in there. So that is going to be my lettering. Then you can do whatever you want for decorating them. Now, let me just give you a little bit of instruction on something. So you can, if you have things to add texture like stamps or rollers, did I grab some of the rollers? You know, rollers, that kind of stuff. You can do that. The other thing you could do is actually build something up on there. When you're working with clay, if you want, so say I roll a little ball here and I roll a little ball here. If I want these two pieces of clay to stick together, what I have to do is I have to scratch up the two sides that I want to stick together. Okay. And then I have to wet them. And this is called scoring and slipping, and then squish them together. And now they will stay together. Okay. So they're together pretty good. So I think what I'm going to do for this guy is I'm going to try, and it's going to be a try. I'm going to try to create a little head of lettuce. So I'm going to do a little scratching there, and I'm going to, or a little head of spinach, I guess, right? It's not lettuce. I already did lettuce. That's going to be my center. And then I'm going to take little pieces, and I'm going to try and make little leaves on the spinach. Right? So I'm going to, and the only thing, if you're going to make something that has like leaves or something like this, don't get the edges too thin, because they're going to dry before everything else, and there's a good chance that they're going to crack. So you don't want it too thin. I think in the picture that I had used on Facebook, I had one that I did last year that I did chives, and I gave it like a little smiley face kind of thing. So this is the part where you can, have a little bit of fun with it, and just do some fun stuff. Like I said, you can either stamp, or you can build funny little pieces like I'm doing. And oops. We'll do another one. Okay. So maybe this should have been lettuce instead of spinach, because this definitely looks more like a head of lettuce than it does. I don't even remember what spinach looks like. Spinach is just leafy, isn't it? I'm lucky I even made it here, because like I said, 15 minutes ago, I was sitting on my couch getting ready to tell you that you could still buy your kits. Nope, apparently you couldn't, because it was today. So just going to add one or two more pieces here, just for sample's sake. And I'll bet you that last one falls off, because I did not score and slip that last piece. I'm going to do one more piece. Hey, Steph. When all this craziness is over, we got to get together for dinner. Ugh, I am making one big old nasty mess out of this, is what I'm doing. My hands are too wet. All right, anyway. So I'm just going to clean this up a little. And there is my first garden stake, right? So I'm going to put that aside, and then I'll show you one with, you know what, I'm going to, all right, you know what, I'll show you one with using a stamp. So let's see, maybe this one I do, I write lettuce. L-E, gotta be a couple T's in here somewhere. Oops. Oh God, it's sticking to my fingers. You got to get creative when you're trying to do things. As I thought this was kind of a smart idea when I couldn't give you, like, if we were in studio doing this, we have letter stamps and stuff like that you guys would be using. But seeing as how we are not in studio, and we had to get a little creative, I thought that this was a pretty good way of doing it. There's got to be another T in here. Oh, come on. There we go. L-A-T-T. There's a C. I just need a U. All the U's are very weird looking. But okay. All right. So again, I'm going to leave some space down at the bottom because that's the part that's going to end up in the soil. Okay. I had to make sure that I was writing this right. And so I'm just, whoops, oh my, okay, there we go. Squishing my letters in here. All right, I'm not being very neat about this one, I gotta tell you. The letters are not very straight. Why do I think that's spelled wrong? I don't know. Is that spelled wrong? L-U-T-T-U-C? I don't know, probably. Okay, so I have my letters all squished in there, right? And I'm just going to put a decorative border along the top. So I think I will use this one. So I'm just going to put a border just right across the top on this one. Okay, so super simple, and you could just keep on going with those. Now, I do want to show you, because this does not have to be a super long lesson. You guys can keep working it as you go. I do want to show you how to salvage your clay so that you can do some more. So let's pretend that I had actually gotten another one out of that, because I could have. You can't just smush it up in a ball, because it'll have all these sort of wrinkles and air pockets and things like that, and that's not good. So normally what we would do is called wedging. That is not something I am going to try and show you how to do over something like this. But what you can do to try and get it a little bit more into a workable state is slam wedging. So I am literally going to start slamming this on the table over and over and over again. Now, you literally are going to have to do this for a couple of minutes, and you want to keep rotating it and rotating it. And this is only going to work because we're working so thin, but it'll let you get a couple more stakes out of your piece. Okay, so you keep on slamming it, and you'll eventually see that you start working out all those folds and things that I had in it, right? It's starting to look a little bit smoother. And then I can literally, slam it out. And then with a rolling pin, or I like to call it, my dowel. Oh, and I'm going to do this again on the foam so that it doesn't stick. And you want to start from the middle and roll out, because if you start from the end, you're probably going to have it roll up over your piece. And so I'm just going to start rolling this out. Of course, having a rolling pin would be a lot easier. But this will work for now for what we're trying to do. And we're trying to get it about 1/4 of an inch thick for what we're doing. Okay. And of course, big enough to fit your template that I gave you. Okay. So I'll bet you that that's pretty close. It's a little thin, and this side, see the cracks? That's because this piece of clay was sort of dry. I had had this laying out for my staff so that they knew about what size to make this. So I'm actually going to just smooth that a little bit with some water. These are not necessarily the absolute best practices of what I would have you do in studio or if we were here. But for doing it at home, it'll work. Okay, so I got my piece, and I'm going to take my key card again, and I'm going to try and smooth that out. Okay, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to smooth out that side. And I'm going to see, so my long, it's not quite big enough for my long one, but it is going to be big enough for me to fit this one in here, I think. So I can fit that, and I can cut myself one more. There we go. Okay. And then again with the sponge, I could clean the edge up a little bit. And I can make myself another stake. Now, couple things. One is as they dry, it's going to want to start curling. So, so you can lay these out on some plastic wrap. Hang on a sec. On that piece of cardboard that I sent home your clay on. Lay a piece of plastic wrap down, lay them down, gently fold over some plastic wrap, and then weigh them down a little bit while they dry. Okay. If you have a design like I did on this guy, of course you can't smush that down completely, but you can weigh down the lower half of it, just because that, like I said, that tip on them is going to want to start curling up on you as it dries. If you do have a bunch of clay left, but it starts getting really, really dry, what you can do is take a damp dishcloth or some wet paper towels, wrap it in that, wrap it in some plastic wrap or a plastic bag, let it sit for a day or two, and then you'll be able to rework the clay and get 1 or 2 more stakes out of it. So once you have designed all your stakes and you're all done with them, I want you to let them sit for at least a week, maybe 2. Let them really dry out, and then when you bring them to the studio, just give us a call and you can drop them off at the studio and we'll put them through the first firing. That'll take them to bisqueware, so that'll take them to the stage that like our regular pottery is, and they'll be ready to paint. And then we'll call you and we'll put together a kit, assuming we're still in this situation. We'll put together a kit for you to paint them at home, and then you can drop them off again, and we will fire them the second time, and they'll be all ready to put in your garden. Okay? All right. Have any questions? Just throw them up there. I will gladly answer them for you. Don't forget that Thursday we have the free project for kids coming up. Looks like we have 3 or 4 more bags left that we'll put back outside tomorrow. That is Thursday at 7 p.m. We are still doing delivery. We're still taking orders. So, give us a call and we will get you your projects to keep you from going completely stir crazy. All right. Thanks. Have a good night. Bye.